Psych of Human Relations, Chapter 7, Motivating Yourself and Others. So when we look at Chapter 7, the overarching question is what motivates people? And so by the end of the chapter, you should be able to understand the complex nature of motivation, influential theories of motivation, list and describe contemporary motivation strategies, identify motivating factors important to individuals from different generations, and then describe selected self-motivation strategies. So when we look at the complex nature of motivation, the thing to keep in mind is that all of us are motivated by differing things to varying degrees at different times. And so this is a very individualistic thing, and that makes it pretty complex. When we look at what do motives really do, is motives are the things that cause us to take action, and how likely we are to pursue it, and how intensely we do those. So when we look at the different types of motives, when we talk about psychology, there's physiological, the need for things that help us survive. Emotional motives, avoiding fear, avoiding uncomfortable situations, being drawn to people that we love or care about. There's cognitive, the way our beliefs and expectations and perceptions influence how likely we are to do or not do something. And then also the social influence, friends, family, what media tells us. So when we look at motivation, these are the 16 basic desires in the Reese profile. These really are no specific order, but when you really look at those, which 5 to 6 of those are most important to you? And what that kind of does is it also tells you a little bit about what your core values are. We tend to be motivated to do things that we care fairly deeply about, which tells us how much we value those things. And then it also helps us explain, kind of our pattern for our choices, the things that we avoid doing because we're not motivated to do them, and the things that we're drawn to do because we are motivated to do those things. When we look at characteristics of motives, again, we've already kind of addressed this. All different people have different needs, different values, different whatever, and those are going to influence what does or does not motivate us. The other thing is these things change throughout our lives. The things that are important to us, that we value, that motivate us from the time we're kindergarten to the time we're 60 is going to change. A lot of times these things are kind of hidden below the surface. We really aren't maybe fully aware of why. We just know that we're drawn to these things or that we are repelled by certain things. A lot of times you can, just by watching and observing and thinking about behaviors, you can start to kind of piece together what motives are, which is what inference is. And motives are hierarchical, which means that they vary in level of importance. There's things at the top that we're highly motivated by, and there's things at the bottom that we're not so motivated by. So when we look at some of the influential motivational theories, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is one. He says that those bottom ones, physiological, the need for food, water, shelter, takes priority first. Once those are met, then we worry about safety and security. Once those are met, then we worry about belonging and being part of a social group. If those are met, then we focus on our esteem. We focus on how we feel about ourselves. And then eventually we get to self-actualization, where if all those other needs are met, then we try and make ourselves the best version of ourselves as we can. So we look at ways of satisfying these individual needs in the workplace. And so what this chart does is it looks at those 5 levels of Maslow's hierarchy and how within the world of work those things are met. So for example, the physiological needs are met by having pay. We get paid so we can buy groceries and we can pay rent. And so these are the different ways that theory applies to what happens in the workplace. The second influential theory is Herzberg's motivation maintenance two-factor theory. In other words, these two things are going to work in coordination together. So there's the maintenance factors. These are the things that people are wanting from their job. Salary. Do we get benefits? How is our supervisor or our manager? These things don't necessarily motivate us, but what can happen is if we aren't getting paid what we think we should, if the benefits aren't very good, if our supervisor is not very nice, or they can be cruel or mean or ineffectual, what that can do is it can cause people to leave and find a different job. Now, motivational factors, these are above and beyond just salary and benefits. Does this workplace appreciate me? Does this workplace match my values? Does this workplace give me a chance to better myself? And these tend to motivate and lead to greater productivity. So if we compare these two, motivational maintenance, then Maslow talks about self-actualization and esteem needs. Those are motivational factors, whereas maintenance factors are those others. So what this chart's trying to do is it's trying to show how these two theories can kind of work together and be very similar to each other. The third is the expectancy theory. What this theory basically says is that if we expect that we can be successful, then we're going to be motivated. And so perception is an important part of this. If we perceive that we are working someplace or doing something where we can achieve our goals and find success, we are more motivated to be there. Now, the other thing is there's a self-fulfilling prophecy within this, that you need to have this ability to have expectations and what you can achieve kind of match up to what's possible. And once you achieve those things, then you believe that everything's going the way that you want to go, and you're going to be more motivated to continue along that way. A fourth is McGregor's theory, the XY theory, and this deals more with managers. That there's two different types of supervisors and managers and bosses that you're going to work for. You have type X, which is pessimistic. They think that all workers are pretty much lazy, unambitious, that whenever they get the chance, they're going to slack off and not do what they're supposed to do. Therefore, as a manager, what you have to do is you have to constantly apply a carrot or a stick. You either need to put something out there in a carrot that will kind of nudge people to doing the things that they're supposed to do, or the stick where you can whack them with it to punish them for not doing the things that they're supposed to do. On the other hand, there's managers who are optimistic, who believe that when given the chance, workers are going to do all the things that they need to do to excel and make the company succeed, and that they can be given self-responsibility, and managers can kind of step away and let workers do what they do best. And those are two very different theories. And so if you think about this in terms of expectancy theory, you've got managers who expect that workers are lazy, so you have to punish them to make them work. And then you have managers who expect that workers are going to work extremely hard when given the opportunity. You just need to kind of give them their space, give them whatever workers need to be able to do that, and they're going to be very high performing. So when we look at all of these, a model of how goals can improve performance. The thing about goal setting is a lot of times people don't consider what they need to do to create good goals. Good goals, you need to be specific. They need to be kind of a little beyond where we currently are. So there has to be some challenge in reaching these goals. And you have to be participant in this. You have to really be involved in figuring this out. Goals are motivated by direct attention, encouraging effort, encouraging persistence. A workplace that's going to foster these goal attainment strategies and action plans. So basically, if a workplace is going to give you all the things you need to work towards your goal, you're going to have improved performance. So when we look at what are some contemporary employee motivation strategies, how can companies get workers more motivated? Some of it is through job design. So by allowing employees to not do the same job every day, all day long, for their whole entire existence at that company, allow them to do a variety of jobs at the workplace. Job enlargement means giving workers more responsibility, encourage them to go out and get new skills that will allow them to move into a different part of the company. Job enrichment, how can you make the job more desirable, more satisfying? What things can you do that are going to make workers want to come into work and work extremely hard for your company? Motivation through incentives. Incentives are going to focus on improving behaviors, and hopefully what the end game here is that it's going to cut costs for the company, it's going to increase customer satisfaction, and so it's going to encourage employees to help make more money for the company is where I'm going with that. Now, one of the things is it's kind of interesting that there's been a lot of research on motivation. And a lot of times, money isn't enough to motivate workers to do these things. Really, what workers are motivated by is working for a company that has goals and values that we share. We want to work for companies that give us some freedom to be able to be the best that we can be. And those are the things that really kind of motivate. Some other ways they can motivate is through entrepreneurship. What that does is it encourages workers to create new things. I can't remember if it was Google or Apple or who it was that gave employees 20% time. That one day a week they let workers go off and work on whatever they wanted to do, and they ended up creating lots of new things that got implemented. I think it was Google actually. And a lot of their best new innovations came from this 20% time where they told workers not to work on work, but what workers ended up doing is they used that 20% time to creatively problem solve some of the things that they saw, and then they brought new products and new innovation back to the workplace. Through learning opportunities, education and training, that's another thing that motivates us. We want to improve as people and as workers. So giving that opportunity can help motivate workers to then become better. Through empowerment, letting workers be a part of the company, part of the solutions, part of the problems. And so when employees feel like they're empowered to make the workplace better, they are going to be more motivated to work. This really isn't a quick fix. This is a long-term commitment that has to really begin from the top of management down to the bottom level, because it takes a little bit of time for workers to feel safe and to have buy-in in this. Because especially if it's a company that typically hasn't sought out employees to take part, initially employees might be a little skeptical and afraid. Motivation through others' expectations. If you have high expectations of place on yourself, that tends to encourage us, especially if it's done in the right way, to put forth our best effort and to achieve a high performance. So supervisors can play a pretty big role in this, that they can communicate, hey, I have high expectations for you because I'm seeing all these good things. And that's going to encourage people to work hard and achieve those things that their supervisors are throwing out there. So motivating through generations, you can look through this chart and you can look at it in the textbook. Basically what they're doing is they're taking these different American generations and kind of overall describing what these generations are like. Now, I would caution you a little bit, because what they're doing is they're kind of taking a whole big group and they're trying to make an average assessment of what this group is like. And so, if you're reading a description here and you start saying, well, I'm part of this generation, but that doesn't describe me, you got to keep in mind that this is on average. So you have the outliers on either side. So my point is, don't let these things pigeonhole you into who you are within your generation. So don't let that influence the way that you view these other generations, because they're going to be somewhat different. So when we look at self-motivation strategies, some organizations really aren't going to care if you're motivated or not. The only thing they care is that you show up on time and you get your work done. So if you're in one of those organizations and you want something different for your professional and or personal life, you have to take it upon yourself to get those done. So by understanding that and knowing what some of these self-motivation strategies are, you can become more successful. So stick to it. You got to make a realistic plan. Specific, realistic, but challenging goals. Break goals into small, measurable steps so that way you can trace your progress towards achieving it. If there's something that's going to get in your way, alter your surroundings so that way you can move towards what it is that you want, and you can recognize these hurdles and avoid those hurdles. And then also give yourself rewards along the way so that way it keeps you going towards the prize. Other self-motivation strategies, people who have a lot of grit. That means we believe that if we work hard and if we're determined we're going to achieve what it is that we set out to do, regardless of what might get in our way, is a huge indicator of success. So self-discipline, delaying gratification are key to this. We have to keep ourselves to task, and we have to be able to put off the things that seem easy for the things that are hard. And this is a very tough thing to do. You have to push yourself outside of your normal everyday comfort zone so that way you can achieve growth. We don't grow if we don't get uncomfortable. That's just the way things work. You have to also make sure that you can balance your life so that this doesn't become an all-consuming obsession. Don't wait. Do something. Take action. That's going to move you along the way, and it's going to make you feel like you have control over everything. So this is an example of grit from a movie. It's humorous, but...
What do you think the chances are of a guy like you and a girl like me ending up together?
Well, Lloyd, that's difficult to say, and we really don't...
Hit me with it. Just give it to me straight. I came a long way just to see you married. Just least you can do is level with me. What are my chances?
Not good.
You mean not good like 1 out of 100?
I'd say more like 1 out of 1,000,000.
So you're telling me there's a chance?